people know by now, the Canadian government is trying to pass a bill into law that would revoke tax credits to Canadian films that are deemed not in the public interest. Now, there's never really been a clear explanation about this, save that it's supposed to be for films that are excessively violent, pornographic, or conveying hate material. Now, I'd be the first to agree that there are movies out there that are in questionable taste. However, the sort of movies that I just described aren't supposed to get tax credits anyway. In fact, some of them are illegal. So one has to wonder why that part of the bill is even there. But what bothers me and a lot of other people, even staunch conservatives, is that these guidelines are very vague. I mean, what is excessively violent? What is grossly offensive? We can't even agree on what pornographic means. Now, the most often cited examples, particularly by Reverend Charles McVitie of the so-called Family Action Coalition, are movies like Young People Fucking, which is basically a comedy, and not particularly racy at all, and The Masturbators, which is my personal favorite because it hasn't even been made yet. This alone bothers me. Political pundits of any stripe, especially the really extreme ones, will go to any lengths in order to prove their point, including use some really strange arguments. But when a so-called minister will actually lie in order to make his case, that is beyond the pale, to put it mildly. You know, it's sort of like the video nasties list in England. Now, this is a list that used to compile movies that were extremely violent or extremely exploitive or what have you, and they would tend to ban them, censor them, sometimes prosecute them as obscenities. The problem is not all these movies were actually reviewed. It was just a knee-jerk reaction based entirely on their feeling rather than, using their head. Doesn't this whole knee-jerk extreme reaction sound like other groups that I can talk about? Now, regardless of what the Conservative Party, their fundamentalist friends, or anyone else is saying, this bill is censorship. I mean, Canadian films need all the breaks that they can get. If they can't get a grant to do something just because it's provocative or something, then it probably won't get made. So what will we have then? A lot of our popular entertainment is already watered-down versions of what we get in America. By the way, American films shot in Canada are totally exempt from this law, so I don't buy that bullshit about it's about whether or not we fund smut. Besides, considering that McVitie and his goons also think that movies about gay people shouldn't be made, this entire thing looks like it's about as noble as toxic waste. By all rights, this should get shot down in the courts as unconstitutional. But then again, we are talking about a government that likes to fire watchdogs, sue the opposition, and dictate what can and can't be reported by the press. So forgive me if I don't think that they're going to respect the courts all that much.
So who gets to determine what's offensive and what's not?
Well, we're not talking about censorship, because we're saying that they can make their movies on their own dime, but the government should not have to pay for it.
But realistically speaking, in this country, if there's not funding, a lot of these projects don't get made.
Well, maybe that'd be a better thing, but...
Enough said.